Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, as we welcome you on Wednesday nights in conversation with myself, Inayat Wadi. And it is clear that the last 15 months has been a very, very heartbreaking, it's been a very painful journey for many of us and right across the entire world, and particularly for the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, and irrespective of who you are, whether you're an academic, whether you're a media person, whether you're a medical specialist, whatever you are, or just an ordinary citizen, the last 15 months has seen hell on earth, and we've seen it through this genocide. And although the relief of the ceasefire has been welcomed, and tonight, as we unpack the Palestinian resistance in inflicting this strategic defeat to this genocide with Israel, and we've seen it reported over and over again that this has been quite a heavy defeat as far as Israel is concerned, and not achieving whatever objectives they set out to. But in the meanwhile, we've seen thousands of people being killed, being murdered, being martyred. We've seen the injuries, we've seen the death, the destruction, the devastation, the deprivation, the degradation, the dehumanization of the people of Gaza and Palestine. And as much as it comes as a relief to us, we still need to continue regardless. The struggle still continues until we are in a free and a liberated Palestine. And Alhamdulillah, at Salam Media, we have been given the opportunity in the last 15 months to be non-stop, to be relentless in our quest for seeking justice and also highlighting the plight of the people of Palestine. Alhamdulillah, we've had a number of programs. In fact, there hasn't been a day where we haven't mentioned Gaza in our broadcast, and also looking at some of the major projects that we had taken right across the length and breadth of South Africa, highlighting the plight of the hospitals and the healthcare system with Dr. Metz Gilbert. And thereafter, alhamdulillah, we had the opportunity of bringing in world-renowned and award-winning journalists, senior journalists for Al-Jazeera, Youmna Al-Saeed. And thereafter, we even had photojournalist Hamza Shalan. And from time to time, we have spoken to many, many people. One of them has been Dr. Shahd Hammouri, who is a lecturer at Kent Law School. Linah Abu Jaradeh, a Palestinian filmmaker, teacher, and activist. She was here for the global conference as far as Palestine was concerned as well. And alhamdulillah, from time to time in the diaspora in Jordan of Palestinian descent, alhamdulillah, we've had her, and hopefully she will be able to join us. But on screen right now, we've got Youmna Al-Saeed. Youmna, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure to be on your show and on all shows on Salam Media.
Jazakallah, shukran for that. And to you as well, Dr. Shahd Hammouri. Wonderful connecting with you again. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Also wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Youmna, I spoke about the last 15 months, and it's been a journey. It's been a journey riddled with a lot of heartache, with a lot of emotion, and for you personally as well. And we've seen it firsthand, we've witnessed it firsthand, we've heard from you firsthand as well on your travels right across South Africa, and even prior to that, while you were in Gaza. And as we've entered the ceasefire phase at this point in time, what thoughts run through your mind?
A lot of mixed feelings, honestly. Um, and I think that applies to almost every, excuse me, almost every Gazan and Palestinian inside the Gaza Strip or out, because Gazans were celebrating basically their safety and security for the first time in 15 months. 15 months of relentless bombardment, 15 months of ongoing genocide, of ongoing starvation, lack of medication, medical treatment, lack of water, every single life and basic necessity of life. They were just for the first time in 15 months celebrating the sense of safety and security. But when you look at the reality of what is left for Palestinians inside Gaza, or even those who are in exile, like me and so many other families here in Cairo or elsewhere, there's nothing left except for devastation, despair, and a lot, countless of destruction everywhere in Gaza. So people do not really have homes to go back to. They have been displaced multiple of times, some over 10 times. And not a single family in Gaza has not been displaced more than once. And now the first thing a person wants to do is go back to their homes. But thousands have gone back to find just debris and rubble in the places that they called homes before. The neighborhoods, they can't identify them anymore. They can't identify the streets anymore. And that is the grief and the sorrow that combines that happiness for the sense of safety and security in 15 months. There's also the immense grief and sorrow for all the loved ones that have been lost in this genocide, whether family members, friends, colleagues, neighbors, you name it.
Yes, Yumna. And just to bring Dr. Shahad Hammouri into the discussion, Dr. Shahad, just following up from what Yumna has been saying. And, for me, when one looks at the shattered expectations, and we normally say first impressions are lasting impressions. And when one looks at the footage on the first day of the ceasefire, or even when the ceasefire was announced, that alone spoke volumes. It spoke huge volumes about how much this actually meant to the people of Palestine after having gone through the horrors in 15 months, relentless, as Yumna mentioned, non-stop, and with utmost brutality.
We're witnessing an epic in the making, really. A lot of people on the last day were saying that we should be very wary of the fact that when one is wounded with a knife, the moment the knife comes out, the blood is even, or the pain is even worse. However, what we saw the moment the ceasefire was announced was a demonstration of strength, uh, of the fact that not a single for not a single moment did the people of Gaza give up their claim to justice, give up their claim to their land. The clarity with which they approach their own cause of justice, and the selflessness with which they understand their own positioning in the world was was symbolically strong. It was insane to see that there is still exactly the same strength, despite the fact that this is a place where the only other historical moment that really we can look at as a key to this one that lives long in the, let's say, at least the European memory is the Holocaust. And for these people to have been survivors of something that is so gruesome, so unimaginable for the human mind, and yet so full of resistance. And if and with Israel's claim that it will its military goal is to eliminate any source of Palestinian resistance, that demonstrates that Israel is indeed blind, because through its military strategizing, despite its very overwhelming military development, very overwhelming capacity, it's still very blind towards understanding that no matter how many people you kill, no matter how much destruction you put, no matter how much loss there is, the clarity, the truth with which the people of Gaza see and understand is not something that will be wavering. And even if today people are grieving, tomorrow they'll be very ready. It's a new reality, and really for generations to come, those images will be played back and back again. However, also when that day came, the ceasefire, it comes with so much fear. I have one friend from Gaza who said, "Oh, Gaza, your joy is so full of sadness and ache. The bodies that are being discovered every single day, and not for a single moment could I ever imagine." If I were to find my mother as a, la samah Allah, as a skeleton, that mere idea of how much cruelty there is. It's beyond anything that we've been talking about for the past 76 years. And yesterday I had met one a colleague and friend who's a doctor in Gaza, and the horrors that he described to me are unfathomable. So while the people of Gaza themselves have a little bit of a sense of relief, there's also a question of how the rest of us react to this. And in reality, not only are we holding our breath, because of the fact that this is guaranteed only for 42 days. And even with that, a child was killed today or yesterday, I think. And we hold our breath to see how far could this demonstration of sadism and absence of justice could go. And we hold our breath to with a very, very, like, at this moment, the most important thing is to simply just keep on believing that the justice, truth, al-adl and al-haq have a way to come, even though all the material conditions drive us to think the other way around. So it's a very complex, I think, feeling that none of us have ever felt before, but also a complex way of going about our strategizing and how we understand our own personal position towards all of this.
Yes, Dr. Shahd, and also Youmna, this obviously is about mixed emotions. It's about mixed feelings, particularly for someone like yourself who spent a few months during this genocide in Gaza until the time that you had actually got out. So there are a lot of mixed emotions. But also what is extraordinary for me is when I looked at this 15 months of unrelenting bombardment that taken place, and as Dr. Shahd alluded to, sadistic in more ways than one. We've heard of terminology that we haven't heard before. With this genocide, there's talks of babycide, there's talks of feticide, of genocide, of medicide. You know, all of this actually put together tells us that this is has been one of the most horrific experiences that we've gone through. And despite all of that, we still see that glimmer of hope in Palestinians when they came out in their numbers to celebrate the ceasefire as well. We still see that, you know, there's still so much optimism on their part that ultimately, they have been victorious to an extent. And we see this as well, where a lot of analysts have talked about this has been a remarkable victory for the people of Palestine, because this occupying entity has not achieved its objectives in any way whatsoever.
Well, also, if you look at it, it's because in the past 15 months, despite all the international diplomatic efforts, and I do want to emphasize diplomatic efforts because they did not go beyond condemnation in calling out for the wrongdoings or some wrong practices practiced by the Israeli army, including also Western and international media that covered and censored a lot of what the Israeli soldiers themselves were posting out and bragging about on social media platforms. Now, during all these past 15 months, with everything that the Palestinians have been going through from day one, all sectors of Palestinians, each and every person that Israel has treated as a legitimate target from day one, that it is okay to kill, to torture, to displace, to eliminate. These Palestinians did not find one international power to back them up against this ongoing genocide. They had to go through it alone. They survived it alone. The people of the world in different countries, they're the ones that started protesting, shouting out, condemning, calling, but people do not have that changing power that governments and international bodies have. So, regardless of all the United Nations resolutions that were taken during this genocide, regardless of the ICJ and ICC rulings, nothing really stopped Israel from its practices against the Palestinians from day one until the day that the ceasefire was implemented, those hours when the list of names for the hostages were delayed to be presented by Hamas. Over 30 Palestinians were killed. That in itself is a breach to a discussed and agreed ceasefire. And yet, everyone, all parties, all international parties and governments involved in that agreement were completely quiet about this. So every single uh, practice, criminal atrocity, criminal practice and atrocity, war crime committed against the Palestinians by the Israeli army was completely okay. It was acting with full impunity from day one till the day of the ceasefire. So Palestinians now, during phase one of this agreement, they're worried because they don't know what's waiting for them next. We're hearing until now, regardless of a signed agreement on 3 phases that has been published by different parties, we're still hearing that Minister Smotrich agrees to stay in the Israeli government because he was promised by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that this war is going to resume after the hostages or the Israeli captives are freed. What does that tell you? Palestinians don't have that sense of belief in any party, any other international body or party, because they were left alone in the most brutal genocide modern history has ever witnessed. They were completely left alone.
Yes, Youmna. And let's bring Linah Abu Jaradeh with us. Linah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Yes, wonderful you're able to join us. Linah, I know you are in Jordan at this point in time. And I just needed to obviously understand, and I think just following on from what Youmna is saying as well, that we cannot get into a comfort zone as far as this temporary ceasefire is concerned, because anything can give at any moment in time. And as we are speaking right now, we see what is happening in the West Bank as well. We've seen the numerous arrests that have been taking place. People are still being killed as well. And it's not only the occupying entity. Now we've got even obviously the PA banning media organizations like Al-Jazeera in the West Bank area as well. So a lot is still taking place and playing out in the background as well. And we cannot get into our comfort zone. But just coming back to the ceasefire in terms of looking at it in Jordan, looking at the people that you've interacted with, and what is the general sentiment as far as the ceasefire is concerned from your side, Linah?
Yeah, the sentiments in Jordan, like we take the cue from the people of Gaza. So we saw that the people of Gaza were celebrating, they were in the streets. I mean, I've heard a lot of American friends saying that there's nothing to celebrate, that the Palestinian cause isn't over, that this isn't really a victory, that the fighting is going to resume. Like all of these kind of negative viewpoints, very realistic viewpoints. But at the same time, we see that the Gazan children were out celebrating, that the people of Gaza are feeling so much joy for, even if it's a pause, it's something, it's a respite, it's something for them to take a breath. And hopefully it's more permanent. But the fact that they saw it as a victory means that we should also see it as a victory. We should see it as really one of the biggest examples of resilience, of strength the people of Gaza have done what I think no other people could have done to be patient and optimistic and in the face of a genocide. And so people were out in the streets, people were, passing out sweets. We've been living through these past 15 months, a genocide that was, that was live streamed on our screens. And for most people in Jordan, and as you know, like over 50% of the population are of Palestinian origin, we were living through this day by day. And we also celebrated with them as soon as they celebrated. So there were lots of protests, lots of people went to the streets to celebrate. And it's interesting to see that the Arab countries are kind of saying, like, why weren't we thanked in Abu Ubaida's speech? Or this is due to our efforts. And Youmna said it best, that really the only efforts that were made were very weak diplomatic efforts. And so there's no one to thank for this except the Gazan resistance and the Gazan people. Nothing else, not the UN, not any unilateral organization or governmental organization. It was just the people of Gaza and their resistance. And so if this is temporary, if the 3-stage deal doesn't go through, the only people who will be able to help Gaza is the Gazans themselves, the resistance themselves. And of course, we have hope that they have a long-term plan for this, and they also understand the enemy that they live beside, and for sure, they have different alternative plans and backup plans and things of that sort. But for now, and just today I was speaking to some students from Gaza who I teach English conversation classes to, and they're just filled with joy. Like, it's just a beautiful thing to see their eyes light up when they speak about going back to their homes and cleaning up their homes, even if their homes are destroyed. Like, just the idea that they're going back to that place that they call home. So I think it's, for now, in the present, in this moment, I think it's a time for celebration.
Well, it certainly is. Shukran for that, Linah. I'm going to go for a quick air break. And Dr. Shahd, Youmna, and Linah, I'm going to put you on hold. We'll be back shortly.
Searching for elite local and international investment and advisory services from an award-winning firm? Look no further than the Belmont Mayer Group, your gateway to unparalleled investment and wealth management. At Belmont Mayer, we believe in the art of wealth creation, a meticulous process fueled by our unwavering commitment to excellence. With a focus on providing elite alternative investments and quality advice, we also pride ourselves on maximizing value for our esteemed investors, as seen through our consistent outperformance. Your financial success is our top priority. Join us at Belmont Mayer and experience the difference firsthand. Ready to embark on a journey of greatness? Contact us today. Reach out to the Belmont Mayer Group on 078 786 1698. Call or WhatsApp or email us at info@belmontmayer.com. Elevate your financial future with Belmont Mayer, where every detail matters.
Send food and send kindness to those who have lost their homes and have been plunged into poverty. For those who are a meal away from starvation, a food parcel means an entire family can eat this Ramadan. That's the power of food. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Well, we continue with our broadcast this evening right here on Salam Media, taking a look at the aftermath of this 15-month-old genocide in the ceasefire. Still with us, we've got Linah Abu Jaradeh from Jordan and Youmna Al-Sayed. Unfortunately, Dr. Shahd Hammouri has had to take leave. She's got an obligation that is up, but we do appreciate her time. Youmna, just to continue, and I think this is extremely important to actually understand, where we look at this catastrophic failure on the part of the Zionist entity. After 15 months, we find that the Palestinian resistance, and we've seen it from the images as well, emerging to a large extent relatively undefeated as well. And again, showing the resilience, showing how unbroken the Palestinian resistance has been, and that includes the people of Gaza, but more importantly, in terms of reclaiming their dignity. And I know, Youmna, you've spoken a lot, even during your time here with us in South Africa. You've spoken about the narrative as well. And once again, this victory has actually debunked the narrative that the mainstream media has been pushing out over and over again. Youmna, I think your mic is muted. I'm not too sure if you're with us. Okay, Linah, perhaps you'd like to comment on this while we're waiting for Youmna.
Yeah, no problem. I guess she's back.
Yes, yeah, I see she is connecting again. But you can just continue, just a few comments, and then until Youmna joins us.
Okay, can you just repeat just the final question?
I'm just saying that how the Palestinian people, the resistance, have actually re-emerged unbroken. And I know you made reference to Abu Ubaidah as well. And I've seen his speech as well. I had the time to listen and to analyze what he has said. And again, it's all about reclaiming the powerful dignity of the people of Palestine, despite what we've seen reported by the powers that be around the world, despite what the mainstream media has been pushing this narrative over and over again. Those visuals with the ceasefire, the handing over of the hostages, tell a completely different story.
I mean, just that image of the resistors coming out after, like over a year of being bombed, every type of weapon imaginable. Just imagine that you're a little Muslim, Arab, Palestinian child watching the TV and seeing this. This is truly like something that needs to be written in history books, that finally, a resistance movement has proved, like they have proven that it's okay to fight back. It's okay to defend yourself and fight back against these superpowers, and come out unscathed and come out powerful. So I think it really was a very intentional show of power. Israelis are going crazy because of what they're seeing, because of these images, because of these very expensive vans that the resistance came out of. what have they been doing for the last 15 months? They've just been murdering children. That's all they were able to accomplish. And even Abu Ubaida's speech, it's very well written and it's very intentional. How he was speaking to all the free people of the world, how he mentioned, the Arab region, how he mentioned the Islamic Ummah and how we're all really in this together. He mentioned from Tanja to Jakarta, and how really he gives a sense of unity that all Muslims, this is a fight for all Muslims. We are powerful. We can defy. We don't need to continue to be colonized and victims and subjugated. We can be strong and powerful. And so what they've done is so much more than just a military operation on October. It was really a revival of Palestine in our hearts, a revival of our self-confidence as Muslims and as Arabs. And it really was a beacon of hope for, as he mentions, all free people of the world. So really, this show of strength was absolutely breathtaking.
Well, certainly it was, definitely. In fact, I think also what stood out for me is the images in Tel Aviv, and I see Youmna is back with us. Youmna, before we get to those images in Tel Aviv, Youmna, I was just talking to Linah with regard to the dignity and the reclaiming of the dignity of the people of Palestine, and those images on the day that the resistance had come out. On this very same day, we've seen even in Tel Aviv, looking at an intact Hamas, showing their strength. And I was trying to figure out what is going through the minds of the people in Tel Aviv, watching all these images on the big screen. And again, for someone like yourself, from a media perspective, that Al-Jazeera was banned in Israel. Al-Jazeera is now banned in the Palestinian Authority. But again, the power of media in debunking these narratives that the resistance was destroyed, that Gaza was destroyed, and also all the lives in the last 15 months. All of that put together tells us that at the end of the day, it is truth that has prevailed, and truthful journalism, which is what you, yourself, and your colleagues at Al Jazeera have actually been talking about, pushing the truth throughout this entire 15 months of horror and death and destruction.
Well, let me, the most thing that I care about as Youmna, the journalist, is, well, yes, it's true, Gaza has been completely destroyed, and they have done a very indescribable job using these indescribable amounts of bombs, sophisticated weapons and bombs, backed completely militarily by the United States and by other countries in destroying Gaza. But at the end of the day, or at the end of this genocide, when a ceasefire agreement was implemented, we saw the Palestinian resistant factions fighters, especially Al-Qassam brigades, which is the wing or the military wing of Hamas, come out in military vehicles. They come out in full military uniforms and with their weapons to hand in the Israeli captives. And that picture and that video for itself speaks out about so many, or debunks, let's say, so many different Israeli biased or propaganda, Israeli propaganda against what it has been, let's say, trying to communicate or reflect to the Israeli public in how it has completely destroyed the Palestinian resistance factions and Hamas and the military brigades of Hamas. What Israel has done in reality is that it has devastated life for civilians in Gaza. It has wiped out entire neighborhoods. It has destroyed residential homes and residential areas. It has targeted hospitals. that and targeted the doctors, the medical staff, the patients, and the displaced families in these hospitals. Its battle was not after Palestinian fighters. And every single time there is a number of Palestinians killed in an Israeli targeting, most of that number, the majority of it, are children, women, and elderlies or young men, but the majority is always women and children. So it's not a surprise that when we say over 40,000, and these are just the initial numbers or the numbers, and I've explained this before in my tour in South Africa, that and I think all the reports that came later on, they actually explained exactly what I was saying before, that these are not the true numbers. These are basically the numbers of people that could be identified. There are tens of thousands that are under the rubble and tens of thousands others that were not even identified. There was no one to identify them, or they were not in one piece or in a state that they could be identified as whom. And I've also covered the mass graves in Gaza before, at the early month of this genocide, where in the first time it was over 100 bodies of unidentified Palestinians, unknown Palestinians. Nobody knew who these Palestinians were. They were all buried together in a mass grave because nobody knew who they were. They were unidentifiable. And now these are numbers that were not registered. So those pictures and those videos, and the fact that also at the end, when the ceasefire was implemented, it was Hamas police. I'm not talking military now, I'm talking civilian institutions. It's Hamas police men who came down to the streets to impose the security. So I don't understand, or I don't see, and we've been talking about this over and over for the past month, but it was not. There's always this sense when it's coming from a Palestinian journalist, then it's not 100% accurate, or it could be biased, or it's in favor of the Palestinian side, when the opposite is completely the truth. Because a lot of Western journalists and Western media outlets were completely biased to the Israeli story without even investigating that Israeli story and how it was told. Regardless of all the facts and evidence that are there, they failed to do their job properly in investigating those I can't even say facts that Israel presented, because they're not facts, but that news that Israel, or those stories that Israel used in its propaganda against the Palestinian people. Another thing is that the Israeli captives that were released, they were in a very perfect, excellent condition. Excellent physical. I'm not going to talk about the mental condition, because any person in the world under relentless bombardment and away from their family and loved ones should be in a bad mental condition, and that applies for them as well, for the civilian captives, of course, right? But, and we, like, as a human being speaking, you have to have that emotion towards any other human being, regardless of their race, as long as they have not committed a certain crime against you. I can't be emotional and deal with humanity with the Israeli soldiers that were killing Palestinian children and women and men in cold blood, sniping them and shooting them and torturing them and sexually harassing them. I can't. But towards the civilians, yes. But the pictures of the Israeli captives, they just debunk all the Israeli claims and allegations towards what Hamas, what the Palestinian resistance, what the Palestinian fighters, Al Qassam brigades, all these parties that they call terrorists, terrorists are doing to the Israeli captives. They were handed over to the Red Cross in perfect physical condition, no signs of torture, no signs of starvation on them. They were wearing very good clothing or outfit. Their hair was combed, it was clean. Their bodies looked, their faces looked clean, and they were in perfect condition. While when you see Palestinian detainees that were taken for no reason, for no crime committed, they come out, if they do come out, in the most horrific condition and situation. They are mentally destroyed, they are physically destroyed, they are beaten, they are tortured, they are harassed, they are sexually abused, and some of them even raped. And some, or a lot, don't even survive, including doctors, well-known doctors that are just killed out of torture for no reason. Who is talking about that? So when there is an Israeli story, the entire world is talking out about it. But when it's in the Palestinian side, when these pictures and images and videos, and they're not claims and allegations, they're facts and realities, everyone is quiet about them.
Well, certainly, and also, Youmna, I think, obviously when you were in South Africa, you gave us a first-hand account and a first-hand insight into this mental destruction that you speak about, the psychological destruction, the traumatic experiences of the people of Palestine, and obviously of Gaza in particular. And, with this first-hand account that you had actually given the audiences in South Africa, and I'm sure in many other parts around the world, Linah, what I'm actually worried, and I shudder at the thought of these, the people of Gaza returning to the ruins of their homes. And I shudder to think even more as they're going to dig through all this rubble, what they're going to find. So that psychological trauma is not over by a mere ceasefire. If you could unmute your mic, please, Linah.
Of course. Yeah, of course. There's so much more to it. Like, it's not as if that the ceasefire was announced and then everything is going to be, roses. There's going to be bodies that are going to be found. Like Youmna said, there's so many unidentified bodies, body parts, skeletons under the rubble. There's a lot of, ammunition, Israeli ammunition that could go off in any second. And I know that Hamas has special engineers that you can call so that they can come and minimize that risk. There's a lot that they're going to have to go through. But again, this isn't something that they're just going through for the first time. This has happened time and time again. Every few years, Israel mows the lawn, and so this isn't something new for them. If they haven't lost a family member during this war or this genocide, they've lost someone 3 years ago during the peaceful March of Return, or during the 2006 onslaught, or during the 2008-2009. So this has happened again and again. And I think
it's common saying, just Linah, it's a common saying in Gaza that in every home there is a martyr. And that's actually completely true. It's not just a saying. It's a saying because it's 100% true. I'm sorry I cut you off, but it just reminded me of the reality of our things that completely reflect our true life.
Yeah, no, it's heartbreaking. I was speaking to a woman in Gaza and I was asking her, like, inshallah, you didn't lose anyone from your family. So she was saying, this year we did it, but 3 years ago, my son was martyred. And so it really is heartbreaking. There isn't a single home that's not untouched by this, by the traumas of war. You're talking about little kids that saw people being beheaded or being completely blown to bits. These are horrors that we'll never understand outside of Gaza. So I'm sure Youmna can speak more to that from a personal level. But at the end of the day, this is what happens when you live besides an occupier, besides white supremacist, colonialist power that really dehumanizes Palestinians, that don't view Palestinians in any sense. They view them even less than animals. They view them as enemies. They view even the children as terrorists. And this has been said time and time again by their leaders. And so as long as Israel continues to exist, there will always be, unfortunately, Palestinian suffering. And so the ultimate goal is that one day, Israel in its sense is going to be eradicated. And even their spokespeople, like Daniel Hagari, their spokesperson, he said it, like he basically announced it, that resistance can never be defeated. I mean, he said that Israel cannot eliminate an ideology. After 15 months of really using every weapon known to humankind, he said that they can't be eliminated. And so resistance will continue until Palestine is free. But of course, it's a very hard road.
Well, I've heard that from Daniel as well, so we can confirm that, Linah. But Youmna, my question to you is, now that the ceasefire is on, what is of major concern to you at this point in time? And we know the next 42 days are going to be absolutely crucial. And we've seen the unyielding defiance of the people of Gaza. But when we see what is taking place in Israel, the mood is very, very different. There's disbelief, there's humiliation, despite the assurances that Netanyahu had given to the people of Israel that Gaza has been cleansed.
Well, I think my greatest fear, like so many other Palestinians, is the fact that this ceasefire would not hold for any reason. Because, for instance, after the ceasefire agreement was signed, I was hearing out the Prime Minister of Qatar, the Qatari Prime Minister, speaking about the ceasefire and in one of the shows. And he actually said that this is the same ceasefire that was supposed to be signed on the 13th of December, 2023. It is the same one that was actually signed now, but it took them 14 months to sign the ceasefire. And that means that the objectives of the Israeli side towards the Palestinians and the goals of this genocide is not, like, it's very clear for the entire world. It's not the hostages. It's not freeing the hostages. And that's why they did not sign this agreement 14 months ago that they decided to sign now. And so here you get that sense where you can't really trust the Israeli government anymore, because just proving they've proven over and over again that every single time they were very close to an agreement, to a ceasefire, to the stop of bloodshed, they did something to stop that process from ongoing and to fail that agreement and for the genocide to go on. And it went on even worse than before. So this reality just shows you that the goals and the aims of the genocide were never as Israel had claimed from the beginning. And this is a very scary reality and a very scary fact, especially in light of the reality that Israel acts with full impunity. And there is no international law, there are no humanitarian laws, there are no conventions, there is no government that can actually stop Israel from its unjust and its criminal practices against the Palestinian people. There is no one body that can say, you got to stop these atrocities. And that's the scary reality that Palestinians live within. We live in a
Well, it
world that
certainly
is
is.
supposed to be put in order by all these designated international laws and humanitarian laws and international bodies, but unfortunately that is completely unreal and completely different from the reality when it comes to the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian issue, the two-state solution, even that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came up over and over many times to say how much he was proud that he stood in the way of a two-state solution from being implemented. Resistance again is a legitimate it's a legitimate right of every nation that is under occupation. And if you ask any country in the world, they will tell you, oh, of course, resistance is a legitimate right. But when you say, is the Palestinian resistance legitimate against Israel? That's when everyone will stop and say, oh, but what happens to Israel?
Yes, Youmna. In fact, I think your fears and your concerns are very, very real. And Linah, we've seen that even on the day that the ceasefire was due to take effect, where it was actually delayed for a few hours. And in those few hours, we've heard of a number of people that were killed as well. So again, the hypocrisy, there are absolutely no guarantees as far as this ceasefire is concerned. And we've seen the rumblings within this occupying entities establishment as well. We've seen Ben Gavir obviously saying that he'll quit, and which he did. We see the comments of Smotrich as well, where in 42 days again, you know, he says they need to go in and they need to go and finish the job. So these are definitely ominous signs at this point in time. And once again, you know, we cannot retreat in a comfort zone. But what is important to understand is we've seen world opinion on the ground change towards Israel. And if Israel is going to break the terms of the ceasefire, the world is watching. And at the end of the day, we know what has happened with Netanyahu, the International Criminal Court, and also the ICJ case. So all of that still put together tells us that Gaza, despite all the atrocities, has changed the course of history in the world. And the world is looking very, very differently at the Palestinians. The world is looking differently at the people of Gaza. And the world is thinking differently about resistance.
Like you said, this this will go down in history as the critical point where Israel lost the war of public opinion. I mean, in the previous onslaughts in Gaza, we would see it a little bit, but not to this extent. I really do feel like there's a complete shift in awareness. Not only are people aware of Palestine, but they're also aware of the history. Like, it's completely normal for me to say that my grandfather was expelled in 1948. I have a right to historic Palestine. And so many people from all around the world understand that history now, and they would stand by my right, and they would, you know, protest and fight not only for a two-state solution, not only for a ceasefire, but, you know, for a complete liberation of Palestine. And I don't think we've ever seen that before. The fact that, you know, Israeli soldiers are being banned from countries, they're afraid to travel to certain countries, they're afraid of being legally persecuted. This is unprecedented. So this is really a win in terms of, you know, this war of public opinion. And I don't think there's any going back. I mean, this new generation, they're even better than us. And I think they completely have Palestine in their hearts. Abu Ubaidah is, you know, their role model. Sinwar is their role model. they saw him with that stick, and that's something that no one will ever forget. Sinwar's stick, and all of these leaders and their strength and their resistance is something that really has ignited a fire. And I think the new generation is going to continue and to carry that on until, as we said, Palestine is free. I'm very optimistic that something has changed this time, that it's not like every time where the world is just going to forget the fact that the boycott has been so effective, that different, Israeli backing chains have closed completely in Jordan, for example, in Oman, in different countries. There's a change, and it's going to start slow, but I do think it's going to be effective in the end.
Well, Linah, I think just on a lighter note, when you refer to the new generation, it makes me feel as if I'm in the veteran or the ancient generation category.
I put myself in the old generation. Like, not just you. I mean, like, even my generation. I'm getting old. So our kids will continue.
Okay. Well, Youmna, we're heading toward the end of the broadcast, and I just need to get some final thoughts from you before we get to Linah to share her final thoughts.
Well, I just believe that this is a very critical time that we're going through. It's just been a couple of days since the implementation of the ceasefire. Palestinians, as I mentioned from the beginning, the Gazan people are actually celebrating. When they were celebrating that sense of safety and security that they have not felt for the past 15 months. They are celebrating the patience that they have shown during these immense struggles and challenges. And but they do have to deal with a lot. It's all these celebrations, all this happiness that they have within them is mixed, and it's combined with a lot of sorrow and grief for many losses that the Palestinians have lost in Gaza. They have lost their own Gaza, but they do have an amazing sense of hope and strength that you can't just neglect, you can't just ignore. Because I have been speaking to friends and neighbors and colleagues there, and they say, we're happy. We went into the streets and we just greeted each other and we just told each other, I'm glad you're alive. And the sense of happiness was indescribable. And the people themselves, they started working in that partially destroyed home or even fully destroyed home, trying to restore whatever they could in a small part of it, trying to make for themselves a place where they can close even by sheets of nylon and canvas, just something other than the tent that they are living in. Some took their tents and went to the same area where the debris and the rubble of their home, their home once stood, and now it's just debris and rubble, because they feel that they miss that same neighborhood again. But again, thousands more are still waiting to go to the north, and they miss going back to the north very much. They have a great and amazing sense of motivation. Every single Palestinian in Gaza now is motivated to be the constructor, the builder, the farmer, the cleaner, the worker, the teacher, the medic, the defense team. Each and every one of them is willing to do that for their Gaza. And that's just something that you can never take away from Gazans.
Absolutely, Youmna. Linah, final thought from you.
You're
Your
muted.
mic, please, Linah.
Do you see that we are the old generation? Youmna, there's not much to add to that, except thank you so much for everything you've done. And thank you to every person in Gaza for the weight that they've been carrying on their shoulders. They're literally carrying the weight of the entire ummah. They are standing in the face of an enemy that has no mercy, not just to Palestine, but to the entire region. So thank you all for your patience. Thank you for every moment that you inspired the world, for every person who became a Muslim because they were inspired by your resilience and your faith. And, you know, there's not much that we can do, but we pledge to try as much as we can to stand by you, and we love you, and we're so proud of you as a people, and you will inspire generations to come. So thank you.
Well, shukran
Thank
for
you
that,
so
Linah,
much,
and
Lina.
also to you, Youmna, as well. And, you know, I'd like to just add that if it wasn't for Gaza, I wouldn't have had the opportunity of actually meeting up with both of you, Linah and Youmna, here in South Africa. And Gaza has actually brought us together, and this is the reason why we are actually connecting once again this evening. And once again, our du'as, our prayers are with both of you, that may you continue with the good work, may you continue with the wonderful effort towards this free and liberated Palestine that we all yearn for, inshallah. And we continue in our efforts. We make dua for you as well, for you, for your families as well, Linah and Youmna as well, that, you know, Allah make it easy. Allah keep you under his protection as well. And inshallah, the next time, or very, very soon, hopefully, and I know Professor Nidal Sakar always talks about it. I think, Linah, you've been on a program with him, and he talks about meeting in a free and liberated Masjid al-Aqsa, inshallah. And that, obviously, would be the cherry on the cake. But for now, once again, Jazakallah khairan to both of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Wa alaikum assalam.
Linah, Abu Jaradeh, and Youmna Saeed, and earlier on we had Dr. Shahd Hammouri with us. Unfortunately, she had to go, but that brings us to the end of a very, very interesting broadcast. And once again, we see that victory obviously has been on the part of those who have been just, and obviously the words that were not even minced, that Israel has been a resounding failure. We've seen this in the times of Israel as well, where for the first time, Israel has actually been forced a war. And although they claimed victory in previous wars, like in 1948, 1967, 2006, Hezbollah, we know what had happened in 2006. But clearly, Gaza has changed. And this legacy that Israel has the ability to defend itself, that alone has been debunked. And this has made Benjamin Netanyahu the first prime minister ever to lose a war and fail so spectacularly. And with that, I'm going to be leaving you. For myself and the team at Salam Media, once again, we appreciate the audience, our listeners, our viewers on the various platforms of Salam Media, inshallah. So until we meet again, for myself and the team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.